What's up, my friend? Welcome back to the Finding Direction podcast. I am excited again to dive into this week's bonus episode with you as you and I get to have a direct conversation with me, just pouring into you, giving you some actionable things that you can do to really live in your purpose, find your purpose, and maximize living in that every single day. And to give you an update, as we get a couple more episodes out from here, this is actually going to stop being a bonus episode, and we're going to make this a regular weekly thing. We've had such a good response from it that every single week, what we're going to start to do is every week, I'm going to have these solo episodes coming out where you and I get to have a conversation. So again, always let us know in a review, whether it's reaching out through social, and just let me know what you want more of. What do you want less of? What are things that you feel could move the needle for you in your life? And I'm happy to make sure that we really specifically hone in on some of those things in some of these solo episodes. And as we begin to dive into this week's episode, I am so excited for the topic we have this week, which is how to create more fulfillment in your life. Because one of the biggest pieces of this whole puzzle of finding your purpose and living in a life that excites you is this fulfillment aspect, right? You hear so many stories of people that go, man, I was successful from the outside and I had the money and I had the income and I had the pretty picture from the outside, but on the inside, I felt empty. On the inside, there was not a lot of fulfillment. And so, what I want to do in our conversation today is I want to give you some tools, three-ish tools specifically, to really help you increase the amount of fulfillment in your life. Because the truth is, you could be the most successful person on the outside, but if you're unfulfilled, it's emptiness. If you're unfulfilled, it's failure. Versus if you take the opposite approach and you say, you know what? It doesn't matter what it looks like externally to other people as far as what my life looks like. All that matters is internally how I feel, right? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel full? Do I feel enriched on the inside? And if you do, well, then that's the true measurement of what success should be. So we're going to start with the first one this week. And also, before we really dive into the first one, if you are joining us for the first time, first and foremost, I want to say welcome. If you're hanging out with us every week, it's obviously good to have a conversation with you again, but make sure that you subscribe to this podcast so we can come to you every single week. If you leave us a rating, that's an amazing way that we can get this in front of more people as well, make more of an impact. But yet again, just wanted to share that with you in case you forgot to click the subscribe button. Make sure you go hit that now. And without further ado, the first thing I want to share with you today when it comes to one of the ways to increase fulfillment in your life, to have more fulfillment in your life, is a very simple but powerful and deep question. And the question is this. The question is, what fulfills you? I want to ask you right now, what fulfills you? And just answer that question. On this podcast, one of the big things we're a proponent of is journaling, meditating, right? Taking some time to really reflect and go internal, because the truth is, when you go internal and you learn about yourself, that's what's going to get you closer to a life that you really like. It's you knowing what you want by going internal. So one of the ways you can do that is with this question this week, right? Maybe you do it. Maybe you pause the audio right now and go do it. Maybe you do it later this week, but ask yourself the question, what fulfills you? And as you answer that question, don't put a box on it. Allow yourself to go everywhere and anywhere that you could go to answer this question. It's really interesting. I was in a group dynamic the other week, and we went around and we asked this question to everybody. There was probably 25 of us in the group, and we went around to everybody and we asked each other, what fulfills you? And what was so incredible is that there was such a vast variety of different answers for this question. I think sometimes what happens is we try to create more fulfillment in our life, or as we try to, enrich ourselves more, is we go, well, what's like the picture perfect way to create more fulfillment, right? Like if you want to bake a really good chocolate cake, you know that you need the recipe, you need to mix the ingredients in a certain way, you need to cook at a certain temperature for a certain time. And if you do that every single time, you will get the same cake every single time. Sometimes we bring that approach to fulfillment and we go, okay, what's the cake recipe to create fulfillment? But the interesting thing is when it comes to fulfillment, it's different for everybody. The way you increase your fulfillment in your life is unique to who you are. It's not the same way Mark gets fulfilled. It's not the same way Christina gets fulfilled. The way you get fulfilled is specific to you. So, what you want to begin to ask yourself is what fulfills you, right? A few examples of my own answers for what fulfills me is one of the biggest things that fulfills me in my own life is pouring into other people, right? Is helping people. When I can help someone move further along in their life, when I can help someone increase the quality of their life, find their purpose, increase their fulfillment, right? Whatever it is, when I can help someone just in any way, that could be, helping an old lady across the street. When I help someone, man, does it create fulfillment in my life. And that's one way I get fulfilled. Now, another way that I get fulfillment is spending time in the mountains with some of my friends or my family or the people that I love the most. And when I do that, it has nothing to do with anything professionally, but when I go do that, it fills me up like you could not believe. Right? Another way that I get fulfillment is sharing a smile with somebody. Right? Another way I get fulfillment is spending time with my family in the holidays. Right? So another way I get fulfilled is by growing, right? Doing personal development. So for me, those are so many different ways that I get fulfilled. And because I know that those are the things that fulfill me, it's really easy for me to increase fulfillment in my life because I know what the targets are, right? Sometimes we go, man, I want to be more fulfilled, but we don't know what the targets are to increase our fulfillment. So if you answer that question, it's going to give you your targets, and then you simply execute on those targets, and you're going to create more fulfillment in your life. It's so, so, so beautiful. It's interesting. I was just having a conversation with someone. It's actually going to be the episode that's released after this one with my buddy Jarvis. And in the episode, one of the things I was sharing with him that you'll hear is how truly underrated I believe it is to have the skill of really knowing and understanding yourself, right? If you know that you get tired at certain points, and because of that, well, you need to do X, Y, Z to increase your energy so you can perform at a higher level, that's going to help you live more fulfilled. That's going to help you live a better life, right? One of the things that's interesting, sort of a side note, but not really, is a few years ago, I had the privilege to interview Rob Dyrdek. Maybe you've heard of him. He's, on TV and skateboard mogul, all this thing. And one of the things he shared with me is he knew that every basically March, because he measures his life. It's unbelievable how he does it. But about every March, he knows that his energy and his productivity drop. And because he knows that, he books a trip to Bora Bora and he goes there. He gets so fulfilled, so re-energized that when he comes back in the start of April, man, is his energy high. Now, you may not go, Stu, I'm going to book a trip to Bora Bora so that I can increase my energy, but you get the gist, right? You want to learn about yourself, what makes you tick. And so the first way is, again, answer the question, what fulfills you? And then you're going to get your targets. And once you know your targets, it's easier to hit the targets because you know what they are. All right. So that's the first way that you can increase the amount of fulfillment you have in your life. Now, the second way that you can create fulfillment is to create a vision for what you want the next chapter of your life to look like, right? In a famous book, you probably heard of it, right? They say, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And essentially, what you want to understand about having a vision for your life is that when you have a vision, it's something that pulls you forward in your life, right? It's something that you're not getting out of bed and dragging your feet because you have a vision of what the next chapter is going to be. You have a vision of what you are moving forward towards in your life. So there's sort of two parts to the second part. One is you want to create that vision for what the next chapter of your life is going to look like, what you want it to look like, not what your mom thinks, not what your aunt thinks, not what your, significant other. What do you innately on the inside know you want the next chapter of your life to look like? All right. And get clear on that. Journal on it, meditate on it, do whatever you need. Spend some quiet time to learn, right? Get an idea of what do you want if your limiting beliefs were gone, right? If your limits that you put on yourself were gone, what would you actually want the next chapter of your life to look like? Now, once you have that vision, this is where a part of fulfillment comes into this equation. And it's that when you live in alignment with the vision that you have for your life, you will be more fulfilled, right? So if you know that for part of the vision of your life is you want to work in a career that really excites you, right? Now, if that's the vision for your life and you're waking up and you're dreading going to your career, dreading doing your work, you're going to be less fulfilled because you're not living in alignment with that vision, right? If you go, man, I know I want to make an impact on people in XYZ way, and you wake up one day and you're not making an impact on people in XYZ way, you're going to be less fulfilled because you're not living in alignment with that vision. So, part one of this, number two, the idea that I'm giving you is build your vision. And then, more importantly, make sure that you're living in alignment with that vision. And when you live in alignment with your vision, it's going to allow you to increase the amount of fulfillment that you have in your life, right? It's going to pull you forward in your life. Now, the third way that you can increase fulfillment, have more fulfillment in your life is, and this one, we could have a whole episode on this. Honestly, I've been thinking about doing a whole episode on this. So let me know if you'd want to. But the third way you can create more fulfillment in your life is to live in alignment with your values. All right. And again, this is two piece. Number one, when it comes to this, is discovering what your values are, right? If you know what your values are, then it's easy to live in alignment with them, right? Easier to live in alignment with them. If you don't know what your values are, then it's harder to live in alignment with them. And sometimes what happens when we are unfulfilled in our life is we, first and foremost, don't even know our values. And on top of that, we're not living in alignment with those values. So we're just lost. We're unfulfilled. We're not in a good place in our life. So a few ways that you can discover the values that you have for your life. I'll give you a few examples. Again, we may do a full episode on this because I think there's so much we could unpack here. But one way to start beginning to discover your values is ask yourself the question, what was just a really good time in your life? Like, what was something you would call a peak experience, right? What's something that you just look back in your life in that memory and you go, man, that was just such a beautiful time in my life. That was something that just, man, I love thinking about that time of my life. And make sure you get a memory like that. All right, I'm going to give you 5 seconds right now to think of a moment. Right now, you have 3 seconds. Did you get one? All right, beautiful. So hopefully now you have one of those moments that was a great time in your life, a peak experience. And what you want to begin to do is, as you think of that moment, what was happening in that experience, right? For me, I'll give you an example. One of these moments that I think of when I think of one of the times that was just a great time in my life that I look back and I go, man, that was an awesome chapter of my life, was in my early 20s. I was part of a business. And in this business, I was part of a group where we would pour into each other. We would push each other to grow. We would achieve goals together, right? And we had this aspect of closeness where it was almost like we were family. And if I look at all those different things that I just shared with you, what you'll notice is within the story and the experience that I just shared with you, there's values, right? One value to me is a group of friends that pushes each other, right? Another value to me is connection, right? Another value is achievement. Another value is family. And if I start to notice all these different values, then I can start to live in alignment with those values, which is going to increase my fulfillment. Another way to ask and discover your values is ask yourself, what's something that really pisses you off? What's something that makes you angry? Like, what's something that is a pet peeve? And as you start to ask and uncover this, what you'll notice is that is showing you the opposite of what your values are, right? So for me, for example, one of the things that really pisses me off is being stagnant, right? Not moving forward, not growing, not progressing in life. It's like, for me to just stand still in one place, I hate it. And so if I look at that experience that I just shared with you of something that angers me, that frustrates me, what it is because when I'm staying stagnant, I'm not growing. And for me, growing is a really important value. So again, we may do a whole episode on this, but at a high level, ask yourself, what are some of your peak experiences? What are some of the things that anger you, piss you off, frustrate you, and pull some values apart and out of those things. Now, once you discover your values, again, one of the ways to create fulfillment in your life is when you live in alignment with your values. So, as an example, if I know that a huge value in my life is health, right? Being in good physical shape, right? Having health be a center part of my life. If I'm not going to exercise regularly, I'm going to notice that I'm going to be less fulfilled in my life because I'm not living in alignment with my value of health, right? If I know another value of mine is growth, but I'm never growing, I'm not investing in myself, I'm not reading, I'm not, going to events, things like that, I'm going to be less fulfilled because I'm not living in alignment with that value. All right. So, yes, that one has some meat to unpack in it. But if you really spend some time journaling, right, again, ask yourself, okay, what are some of my values, and journal on that. Ask yourself, what was a great experience that I had in my life that I love and I look back on and it's a great memory. Journal it, write it out, and then rescan through it and pick apart some values from it, right? Journal about what pisses me off and write it down. Journal about it and then go through that and look at, okay, what are some of the values that I was breaking? And that's why I was pissed off about that. And then see how you can live more in alignment with that, right? If you know, for example, that I go, okay, growth is a value that's important to me in my life. And if I am unfulfilled, well, now I know, okay, well, if I want to be more fulfilled, I have to go grow, right? I have to go read a book. I have to go, to maybe a day or a 3-day or even a 5-day event where I can just immerse myself into the growth, right? Maybe it's getting on a phone call with a friend where we can discuss different ideas that help each other grow, right? If I begin to go do those things, I am going to then increase the amount of fulfillment that is in my life. All right. So hopefully you get the picture, discover the values and ask yourself, how can I start implementing this value into my life even more? How can I start adding this value to more parts of my life? And if you do that, I promise you, my friend, your fulfillment meter is going to start to shoot through the roof. All right. So those are ultimately 3 ways that you can create more fulfillment in your life. Again, number 1 is, again, and I would encourage you to journal this, but ask yourself the question, what fulfills you? Dive into that question, spend time, let it germinate in your brain, let it grow. And as you do that, you're going to create more fulfillment in your life. Number 2 is create a vision for your life and ask yourself, are you living in alignment with your vision, or how can you live in more alignment with your vision? And as you start to do that, increase fulfillment again. And finally, discover your values and then ask yourself, how can I live more in alignment with these values? And as you do that, boom, baby, your fulfillment is going to increase. All right. So go out there and remember, my friend, we talk about this every single week. Is don't just come here. Don't just listen to this podcast. Don't just have this conversation with you and I and leave and change nothing, right? Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, but expecting a different result. If you're not fulfilled in your life, but you're doing the same thing over and over and over, and you're magically expecting something to change, nothing's going to happen. You have to be the person that says, I want more fulfillment in my life, and I'm going to take things from this episode, implement them, and I am going to be the differentiator that creates more fulfillment in my life. Nobody's going to come and say, hey, here's more fulfillment. You have to go execute and do it on your own. So make sure you leave this episode and make sure you say, I am going to take at least one thing from this last little bit and implement it in my life in the next 24 hours, let's call it. All right. That's my challenge to you as you leave here today. Take one of those things that you discovered today and either in the next 24 hours, journal on it, or if you already have some of those answers just from our discussion today, in the next 24 hours, my challenge to you is to go implement one of those things in your life in the next 24 hours and watch as you begin to increase your fulfillment. And if you say, Stu, I'm an overachiever, I'm going to implement 2, 3, 4, 5 different things from this, it's a game changer. Your fulfillment is going to be in a whole different atmosphere, right? It's game over. So go take the things, go execute on them. And other than that, I just want to say one more time, thank you for hanging out with me today. I truly, from the deepest place of my heart, always enjoy having a conversation with you every single week as we get to come on here, pour into you, and help you find that purpose. And I want to say to those of you that if you're feeling lost in your life, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling like, man, you're in that process of searching and seeking, I just want to give you a little bit of encouragement and let you know that it is coming soon. All right. It is not far away to live a life that really lights up your soul. Keep taking the actions, keep pushing forward. And as you do that, you are going to find yourself soon enough in a life that truly lights up your soul. If you want to continue to hang out with us, I'm going to have an episode right after this with myself and a guest. It's an unbelievable episode. I encourage you to go check it out. It's my buddy Jarvis. So that'll come up right after this. If you want to hang out, don't feel like you need to go anywhere. You can tune in right after this. And other than that, my friend, have a wonderful, unbelievable, outstanding, incredible day. And make sure that you never settle. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.